Wominjeka, welcome to Melbourne Recital Centre. My name's Marshall Maguire, I'm the head of programming here, and it's great to have you here for the second Gubberdee that Jessie Lloyd's going to have as part of Yingabul. Yingabul's a celebration of Indigenous musicians, music making, music storytelling, and it's a Boon Wurrung word. It means singing to people, and we thought it was really appropriate. And we've loved this week that Jessie's put together. I don't know if any of you were at the sing-along this afternoon, the Mission Song sing-along. So beautiful. The IRX just makes me cry every time. Last night we had Marlene Cummins making us cry for all sorts of other reasons, and Delene Briscoe launching her album on Thursday night. Tonight we've got Gina Williams and Guy Gauss over from Perth singing a whole concert in language, Noongar, so it's going to be very powerful. So we're thrilled you're here, but you're here not to listen to me talk, but you're here to listen to two very powerful, impressive, beautiful women have a bit of a chat over a cup of tea, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Jessie Lloyd and Nova Peris. Please welcome them.
Hi, everybody. So I hear you're off to a ball, in the next hour.
I have, and I've got my frock underneath this.
All bedazzled. Well, we'll make the most of it then. So this is a Gubberdee session, and Gubberdee is a little concept, like a chat over a cuppa. Mm-hmm. Gubberdee being Aboriginal English for a cup of tea. I'll have a Gubberdee. The aunties, you walk past the lounge room and they see you and they're like, hey, Gubberdee. You got to make them a cup of tea. So. I like to start, including Aboriginal English into things as well. But just an opportunity to have a chat, get to know you in an informal way over a cuppa, I suppose, and allowing people to see another side of you, I suppose.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I guess to start off, actually, I wanted to sing a song to break the ice. This is a song I wrote called Gubberdee because same aunties again, sitting around having a cup of tea, and they were talking how they like their man, like they like their tea, as they do. And so I thought I'd write a song about it.
Okay.
And also inspired by... just my nana's stories from the mission days and the flour, sugar, tea, and bushels, got to be bushels.
Got to heavy bushels.
Yeah. Back in the day when the old ones were on the missions, they used to say life was hard as could be. And every payday, the government would hand out rations. Rations of flour, rations of sugar and tea. And we were wishing that they would tell us a story about how they used to make the best cup of tea. And as we're sipping on a cup of black Billy bushels, the black follow word for this drink is Gubberdee. I like my tea like I like my man, strong, black, and two of them. I like my man like I like my tea, white and sweet. I like my tea like I like my man, strong, black, and two of them. I like my man like I like my tea, white and weak. Ooh-hoo, ooh-hoo. Gubberdee, Gubberdee. Ooh-hoo, ooh-hoo. Gubberdee, Gubberdee. One thing I learned from hearing all their stories, make sure you appreciate the simple things. And next time someone asks you for a cuppa, say Gubberdee, and this is how I want it to be. I like my tea like I like my man, strong, black, and two of them, or three. I like my man like I like my tea, white and sweet. I like my tea like I like my man, Long Island iced tea. I like my man like I like my tea, white and weak. Ooh, 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 ooh. Gubberdee, Gubberdee. Ooh, 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 ooh. Gubberdee, Gubberdee. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Gubberdee, Gubberdee. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Gubberdee, Gubberdee. Thank you. So that might set the scene for our yarn. I don't know.
Sounds good.
So, tell me a bit. Talk about your background. Where were you born?
So, born in Darwin, 1971. Survived Cyclone Tracy, 74.
Well, yeah.
My mum's name's Joan Peris. She was born in a place called Wyndham in the East Kimberley.
Oh, I guess over
yeah,
that
that
side.
way. Yep. My dad, he's an Aboriginal fellow, quite outspoken. He's been around the Northern Land Council for, some 30 plus years or so. He's Marlborough, like I said, the West Arnhem. On my mum's side, Nana Peris, she was born in a place called Mullabulla, which is about 50 kilometres west of a place called Hawes Creek.
I know.
Yep.
Otherwise known as Hell's Crack. Have you been there? Yes.
And my grandfather, Johnny Peris, was a proud Yarri man, born in Broome.
Oh.
But I guess bit
So
about
you're a West Australian, can't really, or what?
I am.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, in proper Aboriginal way, you follow your mother's way, and so I'm referred to as a senior TO. From the Hawes Creek, Lunga Gidja is our mob in the Hawes Creek region.
I toured Halls Creek, Fitzroy Crossing, back in the day.
Yeah.
Broome, or across over to Kununurra. So we played with a lot of them bands from that way.
Yeah, it's remarkable country. It's stunningly beautiful, but it's harsh. And I guess this week being NAIDOC week, and obviously the theme because of her, we can. I often think of my own achievements in sports and in politics and post-politics and sort of everything sort of in between. I often think of, my Nana's life, where she was 2 years old, where her mother, Nellie Sarah, her name was, she was a full-blood Aboriginal woman, and Nana's father was a white Irish man called Jack Knox, and if anyone ever travels to Broome, there's the rodeos called the Jack Knox Arena.
Oh, wow.
And obviously back in those days it was taboo for, white and black people to be together, and so where Nana was born in Mullabulla, she was forcibly separated from her mother and her grandmother. And Mullabulla became a cattle station, and when Nana, when she was 2, she had a younger brother, Uncle Ernie, who was 6 months old, and he got removed and sent to the Beagle Bay Mission on the other side of the Kimbleys. And my grandfather, he was 6 years old when he was taken off his mum and dad and sent to the Beagle Bay Mission, where he lived from the time he was 6 till he was 14. He learned how to ride horses and became, like a lot of the Kimberley young fellas.
Yeah.
Drove cattle from the east and west, from the West Kimberleys to the East Kimberleys, and that's where he met Nana at Mullabulla Mission. And it's funny because it's now in the time where I am in, post-politics, when you become such a public figure, you have that sense of obligation that you have to be a truth teller, speak the truth, speak the true history. And because as a kid growing up in Darwin being such a multicultural place, I didn't really think much growing up, oh my God, I'm an Aboriginal person. I never thought of that. It was just, you're a kid. And because of Mum as well, her growing up on the Tiwi Island mission, she was 8 years old when she was taken off Nana and sent to the Tiwi Island mission on Garden Point.
So you're saying that's two generations? 2 generations of stolen generations.
Stolen generations, and when she was sent. And Mum never spoke about it. Nana very rarely spoke about it. And I feel now that even with myself, as in particular as a woman, as a mother, and I'm a grandmother as well, we've still got 5 generations alive, that you don't want to burden your children with the pain. It's easier to cop hits yourself.
Wow.
I sort of feel, that's how I feel now. And I can...
That's interesting because
Yeah.
I would always think about my nana. We'd try and ask her and, you know, she'd talk about really tragic things but, like, laugh it off, you know?
Exactly.
And a little funny story.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because, well, it's not really funny, but when Nana went back to the East Kimberley, it was just not long after the handing down of the Bringing Them Home report. So part of the healing process was to get all the, you know, half-caste children. They went back and they were able to share their stories, and the stories were documented. So my grandmother's story was documented in 2003, 2004, and that book was called Mullabulla Shadows in the Mountains. And in that book, only because us kids, we know how Nana would talk, and it was just written how she, like broken Aboriginal dialect language and that, and she would often just laugh things off, and because the same thing happened to my mum being silent. So and Andrew Bolt, my dear friend, you know, he came out publicly and said, oh, well, Nova said in her book, even her grandmother said, because my grandmother, part of her pain, in dealing with pain, she was an alcoholic for 12, 13 years. And when I did my book, Nana spoke about it, but in her own words, she spoke about it as well, and she laughed it off. And the person who was, you know, asking Nana the questions, oh, so, you know, Nora, you know, your children, your own children were taken off you. How did you feel, you know, about Joan? And Nana was like, oh, well, maybe it was a good thing, but yeah, I don't know. You know, she was, but the way she spoke, because who was my grandmother? You know, living in a shack not long after the Second World War. So I'll go back a bit. So when Nana and Grandad met, Nana was 12, Grandad was 14, on the station. They met there. My mother was born when Nana was 15 or 16. But for 3 to 4 years, my grandmother survived the war, when what happened was all the Gubberdee, or the white people, had left the Kimberleys and took off down south, and left the half-caste kids to fend for themselves. So
that actually happened a lot in WA.
100%.
Yeah.
And what had happened was, so Nana, you know, she got taught the white man way, so she didn't really know how to live off the land. She lost her language. She didn't have a mother. She didn't have a grandfather. And in that book, Nana talks about how she just followed, and she referred to the full-blood Aboriginal people as Aboriginals. Because she was brainwashed and conditioned that you're not Aboriginal, you are
The
a
assimilation
half-caste.
policy.
The assimilation policy. And so even reading that, I thought, oh my God, how horrible that is, to be told how you have to feel and what it meant to be an Aboriginal person. So, you know, for Nana to survive for 3 years, the harsh East Kimberley region, living off the land, hunting, and,
my
you know,
goodness.
then meeting Grandad. And Grandad, you know, as part of the stockmen's, when they said, no, we're not getting rations, you pay us wages, or the, you know, stockmen were let off work. They had the 4 kids in the East Kimberleys, went up to Darwin. Mum's first house was a shack that they made out of, what do you call it, wrought iron.
Oh, the corrugated.
The corrugated iron. Mum, you know, remembers as a kid laying asleep where she'd look up and through the bullet holes, could see the stars. True. And then, you know, when Grandad was working on the roads, the Catholic priest came around and said to Nana, Nora, your kids have to go to school. So who was my Nana to speak to a man of authority? And this is when the Andrew Bolt goes, oh, well, you know, she just gave her children. No, it didn't happen like that. So, you know, anyone can look.
But it's actually, it's hard to imagine that, you know, you have to actually justify your Nana's story to somebody who doesn't know your Nana.
Exactly. And that's the heartbreaking thing for me as a public person, because I feel almost every day, and bloody January 26th, my God, I need, you know, Panadol for 2 weeks after that every single day, because you're just justifying our history, our struggles, our resilience. And, you know, I sort of feel now, no one's going to tell me anything different. I know the truth. I know what happened to my mum. I know what happened to my grandmother. And I inherit that. And I inherit the pain. We can't be told to get over it, because we get over that, you know, we deny everything about who we are. And I sort of feel that when we did ask Nana and that, she often really never got into the nitty-gritty of stuff. But that book, that Mullabulla Shadows in the Mountain, there was a story in there where these two old Aboriginal men told the story about how they were treated by the station master, and how when Grandad and a couple of the other fellas tried to run away, and they were found the next day and got chained up, taken back to the stockman's camp, and was pretty much all electrocuted. You know, and he had the chains around his neck and his ankles, and, you know, Grandad never spoke about that. He was almost like he was so ashamed of how he was treated, and now I sort of think maybe it's because he didn't want to burden us kids with what he endured.
Yeah, but I also think, like, so my grandfather went through a lot of, the Palm Island superintendent trying to break him, and break the men. That was the law.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine my grandfather sort of telling a Paul Bellamy story about it. Too much pride,
Yeah.
He wasn't going to so he wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
He still hold his head up. And
and that's how I felt for my grandfather. And it was so much pride. Like, when he came to Darwin and he was, out working, then all of a sudden, he's working out on the road, and he comes back to his wife, who was pregnant for their 5th children, and 4 of the children were gone. My mum and my auntie, my 2 uncles, it was 8, 6, 4 and 2. You get on a boat thinking you're going fishing,
done
to school, and then they're sent to the Tiwi Islands for 8 years. My mum grew up with the Long and the Rioli family, and it was heartbreaking, and it wasn't until I was in politics, and we had a Senate inquiry into kids in out-of-home care, and we had these 2 beautiful people. One of them had passed away now, Uncle Lukey, but he was talking about his time when he was on the mission with my mum, and what he was saying is, as kids growing up on the mission, you didn't have a mother, you didn't have a father. All you had was all these other little half-caste children who were removed from their mothers, And
them kids kind of became their own family.
They did, and that's why, like from Michael Long, for example, I'm sure everyone here knows Michael Long. He calls my son, and he calls all these other kids son, and everyone's like, all these white people are like, oh my God, how many kids has Michael Long got,
Actually, that's interesting, because Annie Marlene Cummins, she talks about this. And this is the importance of the mission days, or the missions era, to us now. It's that when blackfellas meet each other, they'll say, they don't say, oh, what do you do? They say, who you mob, where you from?
Yeah.
And I kind of find that this sort of, this so-and-so's this tribe, this tribe, this tribe, it's not really relevant to kind of me and my family, because my family are from Palm Island. And my family, the Guy, is from Palm Island. It's a big family. But the tribal things, Palm Island is made up of 40 different tribes. And it's important to know, blackfellas know which families are from which missions and which settlements, and that kind of connects people who we are. And I think it's a really important social protocol that we do. So when when somebody was saying, that your mum was on the Tiwi Island, and I can connect, I know who other mates I know, and you know who's who, and that, it's so it's interesting that we did it. Even the kids would do it, from that. Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. Even, I was just talking to you before about my daughter Destiny, who goes to boarding school in Sydney, and 3 or 4 weeks ago, just after Reconciliation Week, I went to my daughter's school for a flag raising ceremony, and it was the first time. Destiny was the first Aboriginal girl to go to the school, and Sydney, prestigious, beautiful school, and now there's 7 other Aboriginal girls. And she said to her principal last year, so, we as Aboriginal people, we're not a 2-week race of people. You can't just fly our flag for 2 weeks of the year, and she won that battle. And, the school's been around since 1888, and for her to get up, and each and every one of those beautiful young Aboriginal girls, they got up, and the first thing they did, I was on acknowledged country that they were on, and then they, Destiny was, I'm a proud, you know, Gidji, Yaru, Iwaja woman, and these are my people, and this is my totem, and this is why our history is so important, you know, is because that identity is what keeps our children so strong now. Because if you look at my grandmother, my mother, their identity, they were told that their own Aboriginality was bad. You know, to be a person of significance or of relevance in this country, you had to lose your identity as an Aboriginal person. Don't speak your language, come over here, you know, have your little tag around your neck and become white. And us, I sort of feel now, it's like, no, that's not cool. You know,
and I think it's progressive.
100%,
you know, and it's very testament to our mothers and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers that. I just think, like my nana, you know, like the church is big in my family, and you know, some black fellas they have pros and cons about the missions and the church. But I know with my family survived, and a lot of families didn't.
Yeah.
And that's because of the resilience, you know.
Yeah.
These amazing.
Yeah.
These kids that grow into, you know, so. Yeah, it's just really inspiring, you know, and I love it that we can relate with these yarns and just go, yeah, this. And I just, it's good to have other people here. So in saying that, I wanted to know if there was any other sort of inspirational women that you've come across in, you know.
I guess in Darwin growing up, you know, like we didn't have much, and, you know, we as Aboriginal people collectively, you know, we don't have inherited wealth. You know, how do you gain inherent wealth when your mum and your grandparents, all they did was work for rations? It's not like, you know, they could build a portfolio of houses up and anyway, the rest of it.
Inheritance.
Yeah. But, you know, like we grew up in Housing Commission, but I saw my mum as a woman who wanted to take pride in herself and be a mother that her own mother couldn't be because she wasn't allowed to be a mum. And so that was the sort of the painful thing. And, you know, like even like when I left politics, you know, the day that I pretty much all walked out was on National Sorry Day. And I remember that old lady, Auntie Eileen Cummins, who was also on the islands with Mum, saying, you know, if you have children, you've got to hold them so tight, spend every bit, you know. And I thought, my God, and here's politics, you know, dragging me away 26 weeks of the year and away from your kids. And anyway, that's a bit later, that yarn. I'm sure it's going to come soon. But my mum, without a doubt, you know, she worked hard to put food on the table. She valued us kids having a good education, because when she left the mission, her equivalent was year 3 or a 4 level. And so it was hard for her. And she, when I wanted to play sport, she just made sure that, you know, the last cent was spent on school uniforms or putting food on the table. Yeah, it's an achievement. And, you know, she played a hockey, she played rep soccer, and
so she's very athletic herself.
She's very athletic herself. Played indoor cricket. She was pretty remarkable, my mum. And I guess my grandmother, you know, she was the matriarch of the family. She didn't know when she was born, so we gave her Queen Elizabeth's birthday. She was our
my nana's birthday.
Queen Bee.
My nana's birthday was the 1st of January.
So, yeah.
Just random pick date.
But, yeah, like, it's funny because, like, my nana, I remember she passed away in 2010 after the Sydney Olympics. There was obviously the hoo-ha of, you know, me going to 2 Olympics, and we were sitting around at home, and I had 10 big bags, and they were full of mail, fan mail, and people could just write Nova Peris, care of Darwin NT, and everyone knew Mum lived in the same place for 35 plus
they
years.
They
knew where to live.
Yeah.
And, you know, they'd go past Mum's house, the main road to the hospital, and they would be beeping and horns and everything. Anyway, Nana's like, what's in that bag? You know, cans of soft, you know, like for cashew cans sort of thing. I said, no, Nana, they were all packed through. And I said, no, it's mail. Do you reckon, what, you got a job at the, you know, post office? Going straight from the Olympics to working for Australia Post. I was like, no.
Sorting.
Yeah. I said, no, people are going to, you know, they write to me. What they want to write to you for? I was like, oh, you know, because they think that it was good that I went to the Olympics. She was, oh, okay. And then the channels, one of the Channel 7, 9 or whoever, that was filming the thing, you know, and the cameraman was really intrigued that Nana wasn't overwhelmed with my achievements. And anyway, when the fella was having an interview, so Nora, you know, you must be really proud of Nova going to the Olympics. Nana was, And, oh, you know, look at all these thousands of young Australian kids writing a letter. So are you really happy, you know, with your granddaughter's achievement? And straight off the cuff, she goes, well, she hasn't done anything for me lately. And, you know...
must have been just waiting to say that.
They say it. And that fella he just didn't know what to do. And then I thought about it, and I thought, you know, probably was selfish. I was training for an Olympic Games.
Yeah.
You know, my time was consumed.
Yeah.
And Nana just, straight off the cuff.
Keeping it real.
I'd done nothing for her lately. And I said to her after, I said, Nana, I'm just really sorry.
Aww.
I've neglected my Nana, the eldest of 25 grandchildren.
Yeah. Wow.
Not that the other 24 were, I don't know what they were doing. Anyhow, I said, do you want me to take you shopping? I'll buy you a dress and handbag. Yes, thank you, darling.
Aww.
Okay, so. But you know what? I just sort of think she couldn't really comprehend that sort of, you know, kaleidoscope, if you like, of achievements. And even like for my great uncle on my father's side, when I went back to country and I'm sitting, you know, in the most pristine, beautiful, you know, Kakadu National Park, and I'm sitting there, my great uncle, and Charles Woolley from doing 60 Minutes, and he's like, oh, you know, so Wawul, you know, that's what we call him, you know, you must be really proud of Nova, and he referred to the Western world as humbug. And he was like straight up, yeah, she's been doing a lot of humbug lately. Just winning gold medals and, you know, so that was the humbug world.
Humbugging around.
Yeah, and so the way he could understand the significance of the Olympic gold medals when his son, Jonathan, said, Dad, do you remember what it was like how you felt when you got your country back? The 1978 Land Rights Act. And so that's, you know, putting a materialistic spin on something that's, you know, meant a lot too, you know, whether it was my great uncle or my nana and whatever. But yeah, you know, I stood on the shoulders of giants. You know, they fought the hard yards and, you know, made it a bit easier for me, and like me, have made things easier for my kids, and now my daughter's made it easier for more Aboriginal girls to go to the school that she's at now. So it's those things, you know, I don't know many Aboriginal high-profile people that could get away with being a superstar, because you just get slapped down by your grannies every day.
True. It also shows that they have a different value system, and I think that shows their era as well. You know, like my nana was the same with my dad. Is Joe Guy. He was pretty well known, and didn't faze her. It would have been more important if he sang hymns.
Yes.
Then you know. So, but yeah, it's a whole different value system, and I like that because it keeps things in context as well.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
That's lovely stories.
Yeah,
I like to see Gubberdee. Brings out all the yarns. So, well, I guess I think I wanted to share that, you know, when I was in high school, I was watching you do your thing, running around and winning gold medals, and that was really not only was it inspiring, but it was enlightening. Because it just didn't see Aboriginal women doing stuff like that. And as soon as you see one, then it's like, oh, it's a possibility. Yeah. And it's kind of, all you need is just to sort of that one ripple effect to 100%. Go. And so like, thanks for being awesome for a start. But I just think there's a lot of other Aboriginal women that, you know, would have just, you know, seen that first gold medal and, hey, that's a black fella.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think too, like, even I noticed with my grandson, little Isaac, who was playing last night in the footy? Richmond.
Oh, no, I'm not into sports, sorry, but yeah.
Someone at the MCG obviously had the big Aboriginal flag up. And they showed it on television, and my grandson Isaac, who's actually 9 tomorrow, he goes, hey, Mum, look, Aboriginal people at the football. because he had the flag. But, that's important. I never really thought much about it, but, for our kids, like the flag, for example, I did a talk, this morning at Airport West. They had their Dreamtime game this afternoon, and
is it Dreamtime at the G today?
No, for all local clubs during NAIDOC week, they had their own sort of Dreamtime round, and someone asked about the flags, and I said, well, when you think about it, the flags represent something, obviously, and our flags, the Aboriginal flag, was first flown in 1971, the year that I was born.
Harold Thomas designed it.
And then it was legislated in 1995. Yeah. So the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flag is on par with the Australian flag. And this country has two histories. It has pre-1788 and then post, and everything that's been pretty shit in between. But for us, it's been about being valued and respected. The things that my grandmother wasn't, my mother wasn't valued and respected. And I think that's what our inherent responsibility is to be thankful for those people that went before us and paved the way for us. But the things like the flags is so important because it means that we are valued and respected in our own country. And
you'll know that going to another country, and
100%,
representing a flag.
Yeah, because I recently just got back from Thailand yesterday, as you know, hence the 20 shades of blackness that I've just got while I was over there.
And the glow.
And the glow. And one of the Thai people that always asks where I was from, and I said, I'm Aboriginal, and they really don't know what's Aboriginal. I said, first Australian. How, and they got it, and they said, you're a freedom fighter. Aww. And then they're like, black people in your country are freedom fighters. And I thought, he's a Thai man that understands a bit about, but when you would talk to people in Thailand that you're a first Australian, it just sort of blew their mind that, and for the outside looking in to be referred to as a freedom fighter, I guess it's pretty special. You're fighting for freedom in our own country. In a way, so
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to Fiji once with a couple of my aunties, and we're Aboriginal Torres Strait mixed family, so my aunties got curls, and these Fijian, they were the staff, the hospitality staff, and they were seeing, us and, where are you from? And they said, Australia. Oh, natives. Oh, natives. Oh, come. Yeah, and they just looked after us because they have a lot of, Aussie tourists going. It's kind of like going to the Gold Coast in Fiji, but when they say, they looked after us, but they knew that same thing. But they were saying natives.
Yeah.
So it's pretty special. It kind of reminds... Yeah, it is a struggle, but I feel like we're progressive now. Like you're talking about your old mate Andrew Bolt, about the conversations that he has and that the media has. As hard as they are, I feel like 20 years ago nobody would care, and I think that's progressive. And we might get wild 26th January, and I do. I can't even stomach it, but. The positive thing is that at least people are talking about it because before nobody cared, and that's us creating value and bringing awareness. And I kind of feel like this country needs to have a big family meeting.
It does.
But a few things that happened in the past, and when you talk about stories about your elders, that's them having their voice to this big family
100%.
meeting, and so people can go. Oh, well, no wonder, that makes sense. We didn't know.
I know. It's funny too, because even like with kids nowadays, you can say, don't do that, you'll get in trouble. And it's like they sort of, that roll their eyes, whatever. But if you say things like, I'll tell that Mimi spirit to come, and our kids are like, no, stop. It puts the fear of these kids. But them old people, the spirits are going to come and give them hiding or something. But that's a good thing that the kids have that level of respect for the old people. And when I take my kids back to country and they talk to the spirits out on country, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And I often think about how how amazing our culture is. It's, you know, it's living, it's thriving, and you see the marches of NAIDOC week, and you know, when you know, our survival day, the 26th of January come, there's thousands and thousands of people that march in solidarity with us, and that's a beautiful thing. Because we can't do this alone, you know. I think it's everyone's responsibility to acknowledge that, yeah, it was a horrendous past, and we can't repeat the histories of the past. We can't, you know, drag those chains of history into the future, but you can't deny it either. And this is the thing that every young Aboriginal kid, if you unpackage it, you know, from my grandson to my son, those kids, my kids, they feel the pain of their grandmother, you know, of what they endured. And they're not going to get over it. I won't get over it. And, you know, I think it's interesting because this year, the Garma Festival up in the Northern Territory, the theme of that is truth-telling.
Oh, right. Yep.
So, you know, it's a minefield for every single politician and all the PMs and the opposition leaders. So they've got to come with their truth serum.
Oh, yes.
They've got to come, apparently. And it's,
Apparently.
and it's all truth-telling, so...
Yeah. Oh, I sang at Garma maybe about 2 years ago, and it's a very, very different festival than what I'm used to. It's like a politicians' festival.
It is. It is politicised, but at the same time, what I love about the Yingabul people is they don't care. If you're a prime minister, you got to eat the same level as everyone else with your plastic food, spoon, and, you know, knife and fork and that. Yeah, you're coming onto their country.
Yeah. Should we talk a bit about politics?
If you want to.
Well, I thought it was awesome that you became a senator. Like, that's cool. That's like uber cool. That's like two cool things. Like, okay, yeah, sports people, you know, blackfellas in sports, it's a level playing field that is socially acceptable for us to do, you know, music, you know, a lot of, you know, but politics is a whole new thing. And I think that was awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks for being awesome again. Can we get a round of applause for me being freaking senator? And I'm not really one for politics, you know, I'm sure there's whole things about, I'm a musician. But I still just want to say that it was awesome and inspiring that you did that work. And it sounds like, you know, you're in terms of your social work, you obviously had some things that you wanted to achieve in that role. So give me some of your highlights that, as a big shot in Canberra.
As a big shot? Well, even before I got sworn in, I said I was going to cross the floor.
That means change teams.
No, it just means you don't vote with your party.
Oh, yeah.
And as a Labor Party senator to be, I would have been thrown out of the party. I would have had to sit as an independent. And I didn't know that. I just, because I actually told this story earlier on today. So I was on a charter flight going, I don't even know where I was going, some remote place in the community, and I had a journalist with me. And one of the big issues in the Northern Territory, when the Labor Party, because Labor was in government at the time federally, they wanted to dump a nuclear waste dump in the Northern Territory, in the Gubberdee site. And the traditional owners, and we as Aboriginal people with the Land Rights Act have the power to say no. We can just say no, you can't, no mining, that's it. And out of the 6 traditional owner groups of that Gubberdee region, 5 said no, 1 said yes. So the Federal Labor Party wanted to have this nuclear waste dump, but the NT-Labor Party didn't want it. My constituents who were going to vote for me didn't want it, and the unions, no one wanted it. And so I was out talking to my constituents, and I sat down with the TOs, traditional owners, and they all said, no. So when I was on the plane with this journalist, he said, so Nova, will you cross the floor if the Labor Party? And I'm like, yeah, I'll cross the floor. Little did I know that I was going to get kicked out of the party. I was a candidate at the time. And so anyway, that journalist got on a plane with Warren Snowden, who's been there. He's a dinosaur of politics. He was actually my Australian history teacher, believe it or not.
Oh, holy cow, Batman.
The member for Lingiari, I know. And he said to the journalist, if Nova does that, she's going to get kicked out of the party. So when I saw Warren's like, you can't bloody go around. I said, why? Why can't I do that? Why am I getting into politics if I can't put my hand on my heart? And if that's the wrong thing to do, then I'm going to say no to it. So in the end, it was a High Court decision. You know, they overturned it, and the Labor Party changed their views on it. So it was even before I walked through the Parliament doors, I think I won that fight.
Oh,
so
well,
that
there you
was
go. That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing, because even like in the Northern Territory, there's always going to be one Labor, you know, one Liberal senator, and then you have your 2 House of Reps. And I just sort of find us poor mob in the Northern Territories always talk about developing the North, you know, being this food bowl to Asia and all the rest of it. But you've got to put resources in there. You've got to put, and come, you know, budget time, we're always sort of missing out. You know, oh yeah, let's just go and build roads for the you know, the cattle industry, and we get 1% of the roads budget for the whole of Australia. So there were things that just didn't make sense to me at times, and you sort of go in thinking that you can make a huge impact, but you sort of sometimes found that, you know, you're a backbencher, you're in opposition, and, you know, you wake up 5:30 every morning, you think, you know, what's the hot topics of the day? And that's what you're sort of dealing with.
And you're in the public again.
And you're in the public, and I felt, being a black woman, I was just a moving target, you know. Every day I had racially abusive messages.
I remember seeing some of your posts about what you were getting. Yeah, that's hardcore, and that makes your job a hell of a lot more harder than your peers or the colleagues that you're sitting alongside.
Yeah, 100%.
You had to work twice as hard.
You do. And again, you know, I knew that, you know, you had to have thick skin to go into politics, but, you know, when I went in, I didn't expect the things that I got.
I don't think anybody did.
No, it was pretty shit what happened to me.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody else, any other politician would have got what you got.
No way. And even like, I had the parliamentary library once. There was things that were written and said about me in the public domain, and I had good Australians that would write in and say, this is not good what's happening to me. And when there were so many people that wrote in to the parliamentary people to say that this wasn't good about the level of abuse or whatever it was written about me in the newspaper, they had to act upon it. And there were 3 times when they came back to me and said that, yes, it was above and beyond, and I could have gone down the line of suing people, but, you know, for what?
Yeah, you don't need that more chaos and drama in your life.
You know, so, yeah.
Well, what an amazing achievement anyway that you did it. It's the hard yards.
Yeah,
so thank you again. Because of you, we can. I can. That's for sure. You're definitely one of the trailblazing black women, and that's what NAIDOC is about. Yeah. How are we going for time?
I don't wear watches.
Not well. We got to finish up. I have one final question. Thank you. So the real question that needs to be asked is, do you like your man like you like your tea?
Well, that's strong, black, and a little bit sweet.
Oh, and?
I'm married to a white man.
Oh. Milky?
But I do have 2 bags.
You've had 3 cup of teas so far, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
In your
different levels of putting that tea bag in, out. You know,
they say. Make sure there's 2 bags, not 1. Thank you so much, David Peris. Thanks for hanging out, and enjoy the NAIDOC ball.
I will. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And thank you to the Melbourne Recital Centre, and hang around, please, for Gina Williams and Guy Gauss.